Macro Dirtcast number 4. So much to talk about. My head is spinning. What's going on, JD's nuts?
What's up, shitbird?
Everything good today? What's happening?
Uh, Everything's good. We got some people working on the house. I want to talk about small caps.
Oh, please.
Okay, so somebody is getting carried out on a stretcher with this trade.
Is that it? Is
Yeah,
that what's going on?
I don't know if you saw my tweet from yesterday. You look at a chart of the Russell, it's kind of trucking along, and then it just goes straight up. It's just a straight line up. And it's up 10.5% in 5 days while the S&P is down, right?
Yeah.
So obviously what's going on here is a big factor unwind, right? Like every quant fund in the country was long large cap growth, short small cap value. They had that trade on for years. And when we got the CPI report last week that came in at 3%, that's what kicked this off. And that trade has gone totally psycho. And small caps are ripping. And, I used to trade Russell Index ARB. I used to trade NASDAQ, mid-cap, and Russell.
Oof.
Like my boss used to trade the S&P, and I would trade the other three. And trading baskets of the Russell 2000 is a complete nightmare. It's so illiquid, right? So when you're seeing this trade unwind, you're seeing one leg of it. You're seeing the Russell because there's no liquidity. You're not really seeing the large cap part because that's much more liquid. But I am telling you, in these factors, there is so much pain. People are getting the tap on the shoulder. Like it, I haven't seen anything like this since like '08, like the quant meltdown in like March of '08. Like that's what this is.
Yep, 100%. I mean, you have to consider the straight line move is something that makes you sit up in your chair several days in a row of it. The shocking thing that struck me was that the Russell is now a 4.5 standard deviation away from its 50-day moving average, which is something that no index has achieved. Not the Dow, right? Not the Dow, not the NASDAQ, not the Dow Jones, not the S&P. No index has achieved
And
that.
I don't think it's over yet.
We won't know until that last guy gets out, but it really has thrown a monkey wrench into the trading works here. You know what I mean? It's really wild. What was wild about this Russell rally is that it's taking place against the backdrop of an S&P outside reversal day, which then came in the next session and carved a new high. Right, in case you were a wise guy thinking that outside reversal was going to be the top in the S&P.
Yep.
So, with the Russell going on in the background and these historic moves, man, it's just like I'm thrilled that I don't have a ton of risk on. Quite honestly,
honestly, I can imagine how you felt the day after you took off the position, the S&P position, when stocks made new highs. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, Tony, don't feel bad for yourself. You don't need to get the top tick. Honestly, I think you got pretty close to the top tick.
So far, I'm still happy with the sale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have to say that I look at the performance in the last week, like since that happened, home builders and home construction up 15%. the Russell and oil services up 10%. Gold miners and cannabis up 8%. I mean, does that sound like a bear market to you?
I mean, it's all part of this factor trade.
It is.
Because all that stuff that you just mentioned is small cap, builders, oil services.
Good point.
It's all small cap.
You're totally right.
Miners.
The other stuff that's been ripping are industrial miners, retail, and biotech.
All small cap.
All small cap, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing right there. It's wild to see. I'm not really a Russell trader, but I have to say that one of the early signs that I've got to watch the Russell was, talking to my friend Sir Nick Sophocleus was coming out of that CPI data. His comment was like the Russell's going to come back against everything. Like he didn't have it to this magnitude, but that was the way, the IWM SPY trade is a real thing that everybody's looking at. So that's fair to say that that was the first kind of heads up I got about it. And man, he wasn't kidding when he said the Russell is going to come back against everything else. So what are your thoughts? What's your broad brush thought on the S&P for now? You were a little bit bearish last time, thinking the pullback was coming. We
It's
had the
about the same. Vol's creeping up a little bit.
yeah.
The VIX is now at 14. It's up about a handle. Um,
By the way,
where
it took a shot at a former president's head to get the VIX up a
to
handle.
14. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's still not jumping out of the gym just yet on basis what's going on. You know what I mean? So let's talk before we get to that. Let's talk about your Trump trade because the yield curve is steepening. Is this
No, it's the last 2 days.
oh,
It's
excuse
been
me, flattening.
flattening.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Is this the Trump in the polls causing that? Do you think?
No, I really think this is retail sales.
Okay.
We got a stronger retail sales number, and the curve flattened, and it's following through today. Um, I try to take a long term view of this. The economy is slowing. It's slowing slowly. Let's put it that way. It's slowing slowly. I think we're going to get a rate cut cycle next year. I think about half of it is priced in. I still think it makes sense to be in the steepener. I still think it makes sense to be long twos. And yeah, it's kind of a slow moving trade. So
Will you elaborate on rate cut cycle for next year? Like just give me some more color on that. How many cuts? Where are we going to? Like what's the magnitude of that in your mind? Because I have no idea.
well, a lot of it depends on the labor market, right? Like, so unemployment is at 4.1%. If we get to between 4.5 and 5, if we get in the high fours, we're going to get 100 to 150 basis points of rate cuts, right? Like that's going to happen.
Okay.
And that's kind of my base case. Twos are about 4.3 right now. I think twos are going to 3.5%. This is kind of what I do. Like, keep in mind when I was trading index arbitrage, a lot of people think that you're spending all day like scalping futures and stocks like over and over and over again, and you do that. But when you have an $8 billion balance sheet of S&P hedged with futures, you have massive interest rate risk, right? It's a huge amount of interest rate risk, and you can hedge it or not hedge it, or you can get creative about hedging it, right? So when I started my career in 2001, I was 27 years old. Like, but when I started at Lehman, I really wanted to be trading vol. I wanted to be trading options, and they did not hire me, right? So this was kind of like my second choice, and it was really the best education that I could have had. It's 2002. I'm reading every Fed speech. I'm reading all these comments. I'm reading Greg Ip in the Wall Street Journal, like trying to figure out which way the Fed is going to go. And we did, in 2002, we had a great year. Like we did a really good job managing that interest rate risk.
Uh-huh.
So really my entire career, it's true of a lot of people. Like what you do in the first couple of years of your career really extends out to the rest of your career. So
Yeah.
when I look at everything, I look at the Fed first.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'm the opposite. I'm a pattern recognition and price action guy. So I look at the charts first and let you guys tell me what the Fed is going to do. That's perfectly fine for my view. Okay, that's a good base case for what to expect for next year. Because I feel like the estimates have been kind of all over the map. So I wanted to see what you thought, and that makes a lot of sense to me. It sounds like we're in a good environment for gold and silver, right? Which is kind of why I guess they're still pounding new highs. And there's really not much to say about those two trades, right? In my
Well,
opinion.
I think there is actually. I think 2,500 is a big number in gold. I would sell it there. You get up to 24.90, 24.95. I'm not going to be a dick for a tick. I have a holding position and a trading position, right? And my trading position is about 2 times the size of my holding position, right? So if we get up to 24.90, I'm out. Like I am out.
All right, good.
And I'm going to take profits, and I think we get. I think it takes a long time to break through that 2,500 level.
Just psychological barrier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It should be, it's taken long enough to get here. I quite honestly thought that we were going to go right through that level when we broke through 1800 the first time, right? That triple top or whatever it was. So gold has just been a really slow moving sort of take what you get and get rich slow kind of trade, because you can see the death of fiat currency going on all around you. So it makes it easy to stay in that trade. Silver, same thing, JD, or kind of like all
Same thing.
systems are okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing really to scrub too hard there. Um, oil to me is still in no man's land. Like I couldn't tell you which way the next $1, $2, $20, or $200 are in oil. Like
I
I have
can't
no
figure
idea.
it out.
Yeah,
No.
I can't figure it out, so I've got no trade there. It sounds like we should move on to something outside of the markets, like this batshit crazy assassination attempt on President Trump. Should we talk about that?
So let me just tell you, Saturday afternoon around 3 o'clock, my house got struck by lightning and it knocked out the internet. And where I live, I'm kind of out in the woods, so I don't really have cell reception. So this happened, and I didn't find out for like hours later. Like I picked up a signal on my phone, and I got a bunch of texts from people that said
Yeah.
Trump was shot, right? And I had no internet. I couldn't go on Twitter. Like I didn't know what was going on. So I did have cable. So I went on TV and I turned on Fox News and I saw the replays of the assassination and stuff.
Yeah,
My my take on this, the Secret Service is a bunch of incompetent fools. Just completely incompetent fools. They were complacent, they were not trained, they were not prepared. When I see a replay of that video where they're taking Trump off to the car, right? And there's this woman, this roly poly little bat face girl, right? Who's got her gun out and she's trying to put it in her holster and she can't find the holster. She is shitting egg rolls. They're all shitting egg rolls. They're all scared. They're not prepared. Like it was a clown car.
it was the most visible clusterfuck I've ever seen. Literally surrounding a U.S. president. That girl that memed herself, right? Like the DEI hire, like getting a Glock holster in and out of a Glock gun in and out of her holster was too much for her, right? Then we get back to the story from Kim Cheadle, who is apparently the head of the Secret Service, that said that they didn't want to risk having somebody up there because the roof was slanted. Now, you and I saw the roof. It was like 8 degrees, man. You know what I mean? Like it was barely slanted. You can't make that case at all. And like you said, it was the most visible set of incompetence, and there's no fall guy. Like nobody will get fired for this. Like it's literally the most batshit crazy thing that I've ever seen.
Yeah. The sloped roof was too dangerous, you
Right?
know. I
Come
mean,
on.
you can go down to Home Depot and pick up a bunch of guys in the corner to go fix your roof. Like that's like at a 30-degree angle, and they'll stand up there and fix your roof, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how about now throw in the fact that short interest in Truth Social went from 7 million to 15 million shares the day before.
No
Right?
way. This isn't true. Is this
Put
true?
it this way, we can fact check it. And I saw it on the internet, and it's all the guys have put it in my Slack channel while I was doing a call just before this. And I didn't get to scrub it for like a truth scrub, but that's what they're saying out there. Right. And so when you look at that and you compare the fact, like, how was this shooter in an old BlackRock video also? Like, that's just
I saw that.
happenstance,
Yeah.
right? Like, what the, like, do they have to throw every coincidence in the world at you, right? While we're, busy trying to not be conspiracy theorists with the Secret Service that had this guy in their sights for 30 minutes before he took the first shot, and
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson going around the country saying they're going to try and kill him. They can't take him down any other way. I mean, it's pretty much the most batshit crazy thing that I've seen in our country, and
Yeah.
that says a lot.
Yeah.
But we got the VIX to 14, right? Got the S&P to sell off 25 handles on that. While
Hey,
we're on,
do you want a out of consensus opinion on this?
please,
The Democrats are going to win.
the election.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to win. I don't
You know,
doubt
you know,
that. I
you
mean,
know
like they
why
won the
though?
last
You know
one. No,
why?
what? Why?
This is a sentiment top for the Republicans. I was watching footage of the convention. You had people dancing in the aisles, everybody's smiling. Like, it does not get any better than this. This is like trading a stock, right? Like, the highs are put in when the fundamental case is the most bullish, you know?
Okay.
So let me put it this way: the Democrats might not win, but this gap is going to narrow over time, and it will be a close election. So
Beg to differ. Love the out of consensus call, but I'm going to say that you're reading it incorrectly, perhaps, because
all
I'm going to
right.
say that that was the absolute end of like the DEI globalists, like that whole thing now. Like that was such a monumental, like the Trump photo with the hand up. Like to me, that was symbolic, right? That was
That's an incredible photo. It's an
unbelievable.
incredible
Whoever got
photo.
that photo, I mean, that's like an Iwo Jima shot.
That's a
You know,
Pulitzer. Like,
yeah, it is a Pulitzer winning photograph.
yeah.
For the guy deserves a goddamn trophy for that one for sure. But that was so symbolic of like everything from the DEI hire Secret Service that couldn't get the weapon out of her holster, the slanted roof being an excuse. Like to me, that was the end of it. That was like the nail in the DEI coffin. Microsoft came out the next day or two and said their DEI department is closed. So I thought that that was really interesting. So that's kind of my read on it. Like I don't think that the
I've
Democrats had a
seen
chance.
I've seen some articles on this, and with respect to DEI, they're calling it the crisis of competence. And when this first started 10 or 15 years ago, people were kind of asking themselves, well, if we're not hiring the most qualified people for the job, then maybe there's going to be some consequences for this down the line. Like maybe you have doctors that are not trained, maybe you
Yeah.
have pilots that are not trained, maybe you have people who are in positions where they're responsible for people's lives, and they're not competent, you know
Mm-hmm.
like that's what we saw. That is what we saw.
Yeah.
And above and beyond the DEI thing, I work for the government, and I play this card all the time. um I always believe in incompetence versus malicious intent. They
Mm.
just they hadn't had an assassination attempt in 40 years. They were complacent, they were asleep, they were
They were short
lazy.
staffed too. Like he was
Or
complaining that he wanted
yeah,
more. Like they had the bottom of the barrel team there guarding him, right? Like I don't
the
even know
meat
how to say it.
squad.
Yeah, yeah, they had the goon squad out there. So, well, all I could say is the one thing that shook me is that when you see that video of him turning his head as the bullet goes through his ear, which for me was hard enough. That was the hardest thing to believe when I first saw it. Like literally, like I had to suspend disbelief for a moment on the fact that the bullet went through his ear and not through his skull.
Let me
Because
ask you a question. Where
yeah,
do you think Spoos would have been if it had hit him?
I don't know. In a Civil War case, where the S&P?
Limit down 3 days in a row, like.
It would have to be something like that because I literally think that we were a millimeter from Civil War
Yeah.
with the size of the following that guy has. Like, could you imagine if the text messages were Trump is dead?
Oh my god.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, does not cover it, man. Like
Yeah.
people are picking out, people will be going into their basement and getting the pitchforks out and wanting to know who's responsible for that. That would be a completely batshit crazy thing to happen. I'm thanking God every day that it didn't, and hopefully it won't continue. But that's a seminal moment where people have to be like, we got to actually put down the horrible rhetoric towards each other, and maybe that's something that did it, and who knows. But
Speaking of the horrible rhetoric, did you see Biden's speech to the NAACP
I didn't.
yesterday?
No.
So I watched it with the sound off, right? I watched it with the sound off, and I was just watching Biden. He was angry the entire time. He was furious. He's just angry, angry, angry. And when I think about the Democrats, Elizabeth Warren in particular, like, have you ever seen her not angry?
Right.
Like, she's always furious, enraged about something. And, when I think back to 1980 when Reagan got elected, he was the optimist, right? In 1992 when Bill Clinton got elected, he was the optimist. in 2008 when Barack Obama got elected. He was the
Oh,
optimist,
for sure. Yeah.
So optimism wins elections. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
the thing about this incident with Trump is that he had a fire and brimstone speech prepared for the convention and he threw it out, and now he's talking about love and unity. So that makes me very bullish, right?
Yeah.
Like he's completely changing his tone. He almost died. He had a near death experience.
I tell you, if you want to get conspiratorial and see, like there's a section of your brain that could say, if this was something that was pulled off by the Trump side, it was brilliant. Like, it's not going to get any better for him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I was thinking of. I was like, wait a minute, the bullet grazed his ear? Is that
Dude,
even
it's
possible?
almost like a Vince McMahon production. Like Vince McMahon could not have like done it any
Yeah.
better.
Literally, WWE would have, you could have given them months and they wouldn't have come up with a production like that. It was unreal. So you nailed JD's nuts. You nailed the JD Vance call for
Oh
VP
yeah, I
pick.
gotta.
Got to give you some, yeah, let's hit the horn on that. Let's get the bobblehead going in the background. That's a good call. Is a good call. I'll give you that. I pulled a quote out of one from Hillbilly Elegy that I remember reading that kind of warmed me up to JD Vance while I was reading his book that I thought was kind of boring. I don't know what the answer is precisely, but I know it starts when we stop blaming Obama or Bush or faceless companies and ask ourselves what we can do to make things better. And so that resonated for me in Hillbilly Elegy, and that's what I like about having a 39-year-old guy as his VP pick. What are your thoughts now that he is the official pick?
I mean, JD Vance and I have a lot in common. Like, first of
Yeah,
all,
yeah,
we were both smart kids. We got high SAT scores. We were both terrible students in high school. We both went to the military. We both went in finance. Like, we both have smart wives. Like,
yeah,
I've been very lucky in my life. I've been extraordinarily lucky. He's been incredibly lucky,
yeah.
to go to Yale Law School, and Amy Chua is his advisor, and she hooks him up with her literary agent, and he publishes Hillbilly Elegy, and he gets elected senator. Like, nobody has had a better run than JD Vance, right?
It's a Disney
So
movie. It's
it's a
officially
Disney
a Disney
movie,
movie. Yeah,
from sleeping on dirt floors.
yeah,
So
yeah. Would be a great Disney movie too. I wouldn't mind it in cartoon version. It would be watchable, I think. While we're in the entertainment sector, JD, I think we're going to go right into this right now because I want to spend a little time on it and I want to spend a little less time on politics. You and I have a view that you could consider the band with four letters in its name the greatest band of all time. What do you,
INXS is the greatest band of all time. And you explained it to me perfectly like 10 years ago. You know what you said?
I think I do, but tell me.
You said INXS is the greatest band of all time because they make girls hot and they're cool enough for guys to sing along to.
Yeah. That's for sure. Like my reason for INXS being so great is that Michael Hutchins is an unadulterated sex symbol that guys love.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like because nobody's going to remember the Farris brothers, right?
I
There was
remember that dude. Andrew Ferris is he's an incredible talent. He really is.
okay. I'll change my statement. Only JD is going to remember Andrew Farris when this is all said and done. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like you look into, their songs were like pop songs, right? Like they're like ding a ding a ding ding a 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 like that guitar. That's like nobody's getting famous for that guitar riff. It was all because Michael Hutchins came out and blasted out the 80s sex symbol the way it was supposed to be done. And he was basically contained sexuality in the era of MTV. When MTV was coming alive and you finally had a live stream of the musicians that you loved, like he was contained sexuality and every video that they made was all about him and they were all awesome,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Can
I
you
would ask,
name all six members of NXS?
no way. No, dude, I know that it's Michael Hutchins and three Farris brothers and some other guys.
So it's Michael Hutchins, Andrew Ferris, Tim Ferris, John Ferris, Gary Beers, and Kirk Pengilly.
Nobody's remembering those guys either when this is all said and done, JD. You know what I mean? Maybe that's why they picked, four letters to be their band name, and that was perfect for the '80s as well.
So
And
I gotta say, My favorite NXS album, and like I have every single album. Full Moon Dirty Hearts is an
Oh wow,
album they recorded on
really?
an island off of Italy. So they were on this island and they were just drunk the entire time. They just got totally wasted and they recorded all these drunk songs. And they even have a duet with Ray Charles, which is the best song on the album.
Oh
It
wow.
is amazing.
Where,
Like
where where in their career is that? Middle, beginning? Like where is that?
towards the end, towards the end.
Oh wow, I
Yeah.
missed that whole thing.
Full Moon Dirty Hearts
Man, I'm gonna check that out. I mean, I think my favorite album is their last one,
with
which
Elegantly Wasted.
Elegantly Wasted. Yeah,
That's a good song.
it's a
Yeah.
good song and it's a great that was a great tour. That was a great tour. I got to see the last tour at Nassau Coliseum um, with my college girlfriend, and that was back in the days when my dad was running the over the counter desk at Dean Witter and getting tickets for an event where just like all you had to do was open your mouth. And I told him that I wanted to go see this band and take my girlfriend. And he handed me two tickets, and I didn't really pay too much attention to him. And we got to the Coliseum, and all I remember was that the guy that led us to our seats just kept leading us closer and closer and closer to the stage. And my girlfriend's hair was popping out, like she was like losing her mind. And we literally sat front row and like leaned on the stage for an entire INXS show. And she was losing her mind, but I don't think I've ever been moved by a guy's performance like that in my life.
Yeah.
And that was what the band was about. My favorite songs, I have three favorite INXS songs, and they are The Stairs, Not Enough Time, and Don't Change, which is an early song of theirs. And I love that song because that's the same kind of sentiment as Billy Joel's Just the Way You Are,
Yep.
except it's the INXS new wave version, and it's really, really cool. And The Stairs, I mean, Stairs is a tune that has to be played at full volume whenever it's played. What's your favorite INXS song?
Um,
Or a couple of them.
I mean, honestly, I'm pretty normy. I like Need You Tonight. So that came out in 1987. I was 13 years old and I was watching the video on MTV. This was my first exposure to NXS because I actually didn't know about Listen Like Thieves or Shabu Shaba or anything like that. So I kind of jumped on the bandwagon when they got really big with the Kick album, and then I
Yeah,
went back and listened to their old stuff. The Kick album, I would say, next to the Joshua Tree, is one album that you can listen to front to back and it does not have a bad track, you know.
100%. 100%. Trades flat to Full Moon Fever by Tom Petty.
Yep.
Put it on song one and let the thing go. But that's how you had to make albums back then. That's back then when the era of making the album was the product. And that wasn't just the music, right? It was the sequence of the music that hopefully had some kind of coherent message in it, plus the album art, plus the lyrics on the jacket, right? And old farts like us remember that that was the way to consume music.
Yep.
The best part about that to me was that you had to wait for the release to come out. And then the physicality of getting your new record album and being able to hold it and stare at it and read the lyrics while you spun the record. I mean, that was literally what life was all about for me for a long, long time.
Yep.
That's for sure. What do we need to cover? What else have we? Is there anything that we did? Oh, how about the story? How about the story about basically the end of Hutchins' life, where he falls in love with Paula Yates? You remember that story?
I know he died happy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he fell in love with Paula Yates while he was going out with Helena Christensen. So the two of them got together. She was with Bob Geldof at the time, and they had finally broken up. Hutchinson Christensen broke up, and then Paula Yates and Hutchins had their baby girl, Tiger Lily,
Yep.
right? And one of the reasons why he was apparently like losing his mind when he killed himself was because he wanted to be able to see Paula and Tiger Lily. And there was something that Geldof was doing that was kind of preventing them from coming to visit him. And they say that that's kind of what led him to the, downward spiral where he killed himself. So
Yeah. 1996.
97, I think he died, right?
97.
I think so. We'd have to look at it. It was one of those 2
Yeah.
years. I'd have to look it up, but I remember like it was yesterday. I mean, that's the second time my favorite front man of all time died. He was the first one, and then when Scott Weiland died, I really lost my
Yep.
shit. And we should talk about him one day too, because he is one of the most intriguing characters in rock and roll history. But I think we covered it all today, from the small cap riot to the absurd attempt on Trump's life to INXS. I think we got it all down, JD.
Excellent.
Outstanding Dirtcast number 4. We'll see you.
All right. See you later.